that means they know Martin Garrow's Stargate would outdo whatever the heck Amazon Prime's Stargate would be.
Source has confirmed to me that yes, Netflix did approach Amazon about taking over funding the Martin Garrow Stargate project, but Amazon said no. When it was made known, through back channels I imagine, that Amazon were going to cancel this, Netflix, according to the source, did approach Amazon MGM and sort of said, if you want us to, if there's an option for this, we could fund this project and we would then air it on Netflix. Now, to me, if this is true, it's a no-risk situation for Amazon MGM. They could say, well, we'll produce it, you pay us, and then you put it on Netflix. But Amazon MGM apparently dismissed the offer immediately. There was no sort of conversation, there was no discussion on costs, etc. They just said, well, no, we cancel it. Now, apparently, this conversation, or this very brief sort of, we might pay for it if you want, happened before the cancellation was announced. Even if they had those concerns, Netflix stepping in would have been a no-brainer for me. Just do it. The only thing that makes sense to me is if doing that would affect whatever it is they actually have planned for Stargate. Say they're going to do a hard reboot, a remake of the original movie, going back to Jen Salke's sort of ideas about doing a movie. Maybe it's a sequel of the original movie and you bring in Kurt Russell and James Spader back, which I actually think executives would look at quite interesting. They would consider that to be a possibility because Kurt Russell is a cinematic draw. James Spader is to a degree, but more Kurt Russell. The plan is if they are going to bring something to Stargate, but it's some sort of hard reboot or continuation of the movie or something else, we're going to be very angry about it.
Hello and welcome back to Sarah's Spare Corner. My name is Sarah. I am the host of Sarah's Spare Corner. Sarah's Spare Corner encompasses gaming as well as arts, crafts, and various different forms of creativity. Additionally, I like sharing theories, concepts, and ideas as I am a philosophy major, and when I'm not bored, I might travel places, and I might post about it. If I seem out of breath today and why I'm speaking more in my head voice, I have just finished working 6 days in a row and I don't have 2 more days off. I have today off and then another work day and then another day off and then I work 5 more days and then I finally get 2 days off. But I'm tired, dude. I think we could just chat for a second. I don't know how much this is going to be a second, to be honest, because I've been pondering this kind of topic for couple days now, but a couple weeks now actually, just wasn't sure how I was going to make this video. And then you saw the beginning of the clip of this video, I was listening to this morning that Netflix did sought out Amazon, it seems, before Amazon even announced that they were going to cancel their Stargate program, their Stargate program? Movie? Show? Whatever. That they announced that they were going to make in November. And then Amazon approached them before the announcement saying, hey, do you mind if we pick it up? And Amazon was like, you know, that kind of thing. So, and I thought this topic would work in really well with the conversation about Stargate and wokeness. So I'm first going to give my 2 cents about the news that was dropped by Tachyon Pulse, so thank you for doing that. If you're wondering where the video is, it's over there. I'm going to link their video and also in the description below, so if you want to see the full-length 10 minutes of this person talking about it, highly recommend it. I've seen a few of their other videos. They talk about algorithms, noticing whether or not Stargate is really being talked about online or not. Let's just talk for a second about this. First of all, I find it kind of comical. I don't know if I should laugh or not. I think at this point it's like laugh crying, like, oh my God. On one positive, Netflix didn't make it because, you know, like, don't get me wrong, Netflix would have thrown money at Stargate, but I think my problem with that is also I just don't like the way Netflix makes films, especially since like Matt Damon came out and talked about how films are now made in a way where when they're writing scripts, they'll repeat their lines sometimes several times throughout the film, like hold your hand throughout the film, because they genuinely think people are just scrolling on TikTok instead of watching television.
Experience of watching at home, I think, you know, you're watching in a room, the lights are on, other shit's going on, the kids are running around, the dogs are running around, whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's just a very different level of attention that you're willing to, or that you're able to give to it. And it also ends up having an effect, or is starting to have an effect on how you make movies. The standard way to make an action movie that we learned was, you know, you usually have like 3 set pieces, one in the first act, one in the second, one in the third, and you know, they kind of ramp up, and the big one with all the explosions, and you spend most of your money on that one in the third act. That's your kind of finale. And now they're like, can we get a big one in the first 5 minutes to get somebody, you know, we want people to stay.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wouldn't be terrible if you reiterated the plot 3 or 4 times in the dialogue because people are on their phones while they're watching, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then you look at Adolescence, it didn't do any of that.
It didn't do any of that, yeah.
Look, these
I wish that were,
like,
that feels more like the
trick,
exception.
That, you know?
It's so masterfully made that it feels a little more like the exception. I hope it's not.
My feeling is just that it demonstrates that you don't need to do any of that to get people, you know what I mean? Like, I always feel like, you know, complaining about it makes me feel like one of these guys was like, when I was a boy, like, you always want to freeze the culture at the time when you, I don't know, felt more like, you know, we didn't used to have these phones, all these phones, and everybody's looking at their phone. I get it. Yes, it's true. Also, it's like supply and demand. People want to look at their phone. They can look at TikTok. They want, you know, they're going going to do that, I think what you can do is make shit the best you can. People can still go to the movies. It's hard to fight supply and demand. But the upside of that is, like, I can try to do something, hopefully that's like, that actually doesn't need to, have the most urgency to get you to come to the theater with your family.
You got to adapt. I mean, there's no way you're going to change people's viewing habits now.
No.
I mean, what percentage of Netflix is actually watched on phones?
Joke that I like to make with every director I work with, like when they're really puzzling over a shot or really grinding out something, I go, it's not going to look as good on the phone. When just everyone gets angry when you say that.
Weird, though, the concern for the algorithm, like making sure that people watch. Like, look, we've got data that shows within the first 5 minutes when this happens, they tune out. Now it's on Netflix, and so they're giving him notes now, and they can give him, like, but they're not telling him what to do, but they're saying, like, this is when people are tuning out. And so let's, just so you have that data, now decide how you want to edit things.
To which I imagine there's some people doing that.
All right, I'm watching a movie.
I'm not one of those people. In fact, there's many times where I'll be watching something with someone and they try to ask me questions and I'm like, shut up, this is my show. Why I'm a little happy that Netflix didn't get this Stargate program. And I think it kind of goes back to whatever a lot of people are saying online, is that Amazon will just think whatever they produce, fans will just watch because it's Stargate. I think that argument can go the same with Netflix. Fans will just watch because it's Stargate, even though it's Netflix. Like, you don't even know if Netflix's idea for Stargate would have been good. Now, I do hear that apparently, yes, it was supposed to be Martin Garrow's Stargate on Netflix, and that's nice. But I think my concern there is Netflix? But it doesn't really matter because Netflix didn't get it and Amazon said no. So here's what I think. I think it's confirmed at this point that it's not because of wokeness that this was canceled. Because Netflix could be probably argued to be the most woke programming out of all of the television series. I don't think with any of these big companies, they even care about equality, like at all. I've talked about this quite a bit in a video, but they don't care about that. They care about money. What they're worried about is if you have a section of group of people who tend to be more left-wing, right-wing, and maybe it's something they grew up with, and then you're going to remake the series or reboot it or whatever it is, you're worried that the other side of the political spectrum is going to be like, ugh, no thanks. The wokeness is not the problem because they don't care about that. They're just worried that more people will watch it. And if you do something that is politically different, they're going to have a hard time watching it. I think what I find funny about this is Amazon canceling Stargate, but also Netflix reaching out and Amazon being like, nah, it really goes to show Amazon really is betting on Stargate in this very strange way. Like, it's a weird tactic they're doing. They're like,
we really want Stargate because we really think it'll go somewhere, but also, though, we don't like where you're taking it, Martin Garrow.
I can't. Like, it's just crazy to me, dude. Like, I'm not saying that all of us fans would have loved Martin Garrow's script. Like, there are times where sometimes there's just bad writing. Like, there's a couple of episodes of Stargate that aren't great. There's a couple of episodes of Star Trek that aren't that great. There's episodes of, like, every show that exists that is just not great. Did a video talking about demographics in Stargate, which if you want to see, it's up there. They have the numbers. You and I don't necessarily do, but we do have like an understanding of the numbers. And from when we looked, so when they're thinking, how can we get Stargate fans reach to women? One thing that I think is like, it's kind of like unreliable narrator to put all your eggs on the basket to try to, hone in Gen Z and Gen Alpha by just making a show that's attractive to the younger generation. It doesn't work because if you think about it this way, and I noticed this now more in my adult life, there were shows I watched as a kid that I really liked. And then there were a period of time where I just didn't think of those shows anymore. And then all of a sudden it came back to, like life is a wave. Like we just go in different periods of time. Like sometimes we're really into it, sometimes we're not. And like, I find that's the same thing with Stargate with me. And I find that even with my love for Hey Arnold as of late. You go in periods of time. It's not like your entire existence is that one thing. Maybe in some cases, but most cases people have a variety of interests and a variety of different music aesthetics and fashion changes over time. And when you're betting on that kind of stuff, you're betting we need to get more people in and specifically the younger generation because they're not watching Stargate, you're kind of betting that we just have to make a show that's more friendly to the younger generation, which means we have to make it on par with the industry, which right now is like 10 episodes, and every episode has some kind of cliffhanger that leads into the next episode. All that to say is I find it kind of comical that Amazon's like, yeah, no, Netflix, we've got this. So something that the Tachyon Pulse mentioned in their video, it kind of makes me think one thing specifically. They kind of suggested that maybe they'd pick it up from the films with Kurt Russell and James Spader. Of course, assuming that they would return for those roles, but it's been like 30 years now? Over 30 years. But also though, I guarantee you that film, even though yes, it has bigger names, actors in it, it's not as iconic as the shows. It's just not. Like, you might get a draw in for sure by the actors, and I get that. Here's an easy way to solve this, okay? You do a funny little segment of a joke where you have Michael Shanks and you have James Spader and you have Richard Dean Anderson and Kurt Russell, and they're facing each other in like this weird mirror image, and they're like,
"Do I know you?"
And they're like,
"No, I don't know you, but you look familiar."
See, that would be funny. And that would be one way to get those big names on that episode. And because Amazon has the money, you know they could do it. So it's not like these things are impossible, because it's Amazon. So here is why I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about wokeness. Because first of all, I just wanted to laugh with y'all on camera about this. Kind of checks out. Like, Amazon Prime Video, its biggest competitor is definitely Netflix. And the last thing that they would want to see is competition with Netflix, which is here, by the way, okay? That means they know Martin Garrow's Stargate would outdo whatever the heck Amazon Prime Stargate would be. Because Amazon Prime, because Tachyon Pulse kind of mentioned this, that if Amazon had canceled this in the way that they did, then it kind of shows that maybe they already have an idea with what they want in the future, right? So they would produce it regardless. But let's just say they also gave Netflix the go-ahead on this Martin Garrow show that we'll never get, at least not as of now, right? And let's just say that they, like, one was aired 1 year after another. Amazon knows that Martin Garrow's show would outdo whatever the heck Amazon Prime was going to put out, because that's competition, right? And it would be airing on Netflix. So they know that this show would be good for the fans. This is why I don't think wokeness is the problem. So before we get into wokeness, I just should actually describe what wokeness is. So I was talking to my friend who lives in the States, and I live in Canada, so a lot of these like buzz terms that are American kind of like fall into Canada, but like we don't always have like the level of where that came from. So the idea of specifically wokeness had to do with when it came to oppression of Black people in the United States. And the idea was that you are awake to the misgivings and the mishandling of Black communities in America. And I say America, but I mean United States of America. So that was the original context. But over time, it has developed to encompass several different things. So you can be woke to disability, woke to LGBTQ rights, basically woke to cultures that tend to be more minority. And not just culture, but also society and groups of people. And so a lot of the biggest conversations that have been in sci-fi lately is how the problem of wokeness has just flooded into sci-fi and have absolutely ruined it. But I was recently watching this video, and I'm gonna link it up here, but I'll just, once again, just show you the audio of what I was listening to.
Did over the series, expanded the universe where they went, the kind of enemies they fought. And when they wanted to alter it, they created a spin-off that did exactly the same thing and it successfully grew over the series. Then they did Stargate Universe, and while it started poorly, by the end of it, it was actually good, and they'd successfully expanded it again. That's why it makes absolutely no sense that it was only going to appeal to the franchise's dedicated fan base.
Because probably on some level, they don't want to do that anymore. They hate the idea that shows slowly build up over time, and that doesn't pay out for fans who are going to subscribe. That's a risk. Basically, these companies, they look at risk factors and numbers, and if there is even a small chance that people will unsubscribe to your Amazon Prime because the fans decide that they are going to unsubscribe because maybe the show is a little slow at the moment, they don't want that risk. So they need it to be constantly always flashy and boom, 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 and always, contradict what TikTok brain is going on at the exact same time.
It really doesn't seem to be the scale of the audience, so much as how well can the people at Amazon comprehend them. And earlier, it did tweet out, no matter...
Yeah, so the announcement of Gem and the Holograms and also the He-Man film that's in the theaters right now, it proves that it's not about the age demographic, which was obviously disproven by Joseph Malazzi, which I talk about that in that video there, but that was never a concern. So then the question is it wokeness? And I think this video points out a real issue. And even though I think he does kind of blame wokeness, and I can't remember thoroughly, so if not, I'll correct myself. Please don't write comments, because I'm just saying stuff right now. It might be different later, so just wait.
Don't respect the franchise at all.
Find it in the course catalog under my full name.
I was like, no way, right? They're not. They're not going to utterly spell it out for the mouth-breathing, drooling moron at the back, are they?
My full name, Isla Dax.
Yeah.
You're Dax.
Oh my god, they carried on. I forgot they carried on.
Hey, everybody, did you know that she's Dax? Yeah, that's Dax from Deep Space Nine.
Oh.
Here's why I had to talk about this for a second, because I follow this Star Trek reviewer. One of the things that he said when the fan base was really mad about Starfleet Academy is that the reason why people didn't like Starfleet Academy is because they were just anti-human rights. And from what I find after watching this video, I'm like, you know what, there definitely is like a percentage of fan base who didn't like Starfleet Academy, which again, I haven't watched, but I did see that clip and I was like, I get it. It goes back to all of these rules of streaming services now, where everything has to be repeated, that we have to spell it out all the time, that we have to hold hand. You think about it this way. If an episode is going to be an hour long, there is specific things that you have to cover within that hour. If you are too busy repeating yourself, that is an extra 20 minutes on top of the episode between recuts of repeating or dragging out certain scenes that don't need to be dragged out. That removes from the element of the creativity of the show. So if you think of like your favorite Stargate episode, and if they just repeated like the line over and over again, just hoping that you would like really understand what they're talking about, it would really dull the episode, really draw it out, quite boring.
Ego. Decided I saw dog. Ego. Decided I saw dog. Ego.
Huh? Disparu. I guess that's the person's name. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. So if you follow this person, you can correct me in the comments. But their complaint is not, it's because they had a woman of color play Dax. No. Or that it was a different species. No. It's because they really drawed out that scene. They really over-explained who Dax is. And they had to like name it, you know, for the person in the back who doesn't know who Dax is. I think what a lot of people online think, that if somebody has a complaint, that they're automatically a racist or a bigot or something. And I think maybe on some level that could be true, but also maybe it could just be that it was poorly produced, that there was certain things written in the contract that they had to do in terms of writing. And when you don't meet those criteria, it's going to be rewritten. And then you produce it, and then fans are like, this is trash. And then the film studio's like, why did everybody hate that? Because the film studio doesn't care about wokeness. Because if they did, they would do it right. Stargate has a variety of people of different ethnicities in a role of what they call a perfect host. The Goa'uld, a symbiote species that takes over a human host, or an Uranus in some cases, and controls their body. And they only choose perfect hosts. That is the rule. They do not discriminate against gender because they can actually choose which gender they want to be, and they will also breed based on that gender that they choose to be. So if one symbiote chooses to be a female, they can breed. If one symbiote chooses to be a male, they can actually give what they call the seed to the other symbiote. So they are technically not an asexual species, but a species that can choose their own biology, which is very fascinating. This isn't something that Stargate ever had to tell the fan, hey, by the way, it's a transgender species. They never needed to tell the fans that, and fans were never disgusted by it either. And like, if you think, oh, well, like, that species evil. There was also the Tok'ra. They weren't evil, by the way. So it's not just the Goa'uld, the Tok'ra as well, because they're the same species. The issue with the Goa'uld is not that they're transgender, and they never made it that problem. Issue with the species is because they steal human hosts because of their ego, which they addressed. But again, when they choose human hosts, the quote is perfect hosts. They're not racist, they're just speciesist because they hate humans, but they choose humans of all different ethnicities. You can see this in the episode where there is the Goa'uld and the System Lords coming together to make one large meeting with all the other System Lords, and there is a lot of different ethnicities in that room. The Goa'uld don't work like that. like the show's a lot more woke than people give it.
I think Goa'uld are non-binary.
They are, yeah, exactly.
They have preferences, but yeah. I was making this point on my shows. It's like everything that like is woke now, Stargate already did. It's like you have non-binary-esque aliens that can switch whatever gender that they want.
Yeah.
You have strong female characters. You have diversity. It's like, wow, amazing how like all this stuff that you guys wanted for all your woke fetish, it already was done before and done well, but they don't know how to make things, so they're going to destroy it.
There's a way to be progressive and still tell a cool story that doesn't piss everyone off. Like you can have that line, my reproductive organs are on the inside instead of the outside. You can have that line, and why we cringe it, while we might cringe it a little bit, like we'll be like, look, that's part of her character. She's a strong woman, but she's not a strong woman who is putting down a strong man in order to lift herself up. She's a strong woman in spite of the men around her.
Your example there about Carter, when you get to Stargate Atlantis and she takes over running Stargate Atlantis, she's earned it. She's
100%.
gone all the way through that journey. She owns
Right.
it. She 100% has the respect of everybody that serves under her because of what she has done and what she has achieved.
And probably she was probably the best commander of Atlantis.
I disagree. How dare you?
Young, you can have progressive and woke ideology and something. You can do that if you do it in a way that's natural, where it's not preachy, where it's part of the real world, where it's actually telling a proper story. There's ways to do this correctly. I would argue that at least 2 seasons of The Orville was able to walk that fine line and tell a good story the same way. And Stargate did it for years. Star Trek did it for years. And then all of a sudden, it seems like they just forgot that in order to get the appreciation and respect of fans, if you want to preach that message, you have to wrap it in reality and tell a good story. And they just forgot to do that.
The difference of wokeness, I think what they really mean to say when people say wokeness is it's not good writing. Now, there's definitely some people of the population who are actually racist. And you can let them fight out in the comments with themselves because clearly they're not well, but that's not the problem. And also, these studios, again, do not care about wokeness. They don't care whether or not there's representation. They just care if people will get their butts in the couch and watch the show. So what the actual problem is, and it's clear that they knew that Martin Garrow's Stargate would be good because they won't let Netflix pick it up. No, the problem is if you're worried why Stargate may not have certain audiences you want, again, goes to bad marketing. Now, it's really hard to, market a show that has been dead for so long. So here's what we do. We announce it with the fans. We let them know, hey, by the way, we're making a Stargate show. Oh, wait, that sounds familiar. It is quite silly, actually, this whole predicament. One thing that Amazon didn't predict with canceling Stargate, because they genuinely thought that we just, cry for 3 days and then get over it because they probably think we're big sensitive babies. They didn't expect Stargate fans to show up outside their studio and not in a mean way, in a positive way, and hire a plane and get Times Square. They didn't expect these things. They didn't expect Stargate fans to still be talking about this a month in. Issue's not wokeness, because these studios, they don't care about wokeness. They care about numbers. I don't know, dude. And maybe it is that they just want Kurt Russell and James Spader to come back. I don't know how I feel about that, dude. The movie is good, don't get me wrong. But imagine erasing over 300 episodes and 2 extra movies of lore just so that you can bring a big name brand actor in. There's a way, again, at the beginning of this video, I talked about it. There's a way to get these big actors in the show. So instead, what they do is they get these big name actors to come back to a show that they hadn't played in 30 years. Dude, here's an example, and this is something that's just been annoying me later. Why is there a second Devil Wears Prada? why. Why are they making a second Practical Magic? I know that there is another book, A Practical Magic. Well, that's because you know it will bring fans back to your streaming service to watch that one random movie that meant something to them. Now, don't get me wrong. I heard Freaky Friday 2 is really good, but I don't know, dude. I don't know if I want to watch it. Not because I doubt the abilities of the actors. Like Jamie Lee Curtis had a great time with that film. So did Lindsay Lohan. But you don't, like, imagine doing a second Parent Trap. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, because they kind of did. So a little bit of film history here. There was actually an original Parent Trap film, which I think came out in like 1960 something. It was with Hayley Mills, which was a Disney actor at that period of time. So 1961. So Hayley Mills played as two sisters, okay? And she came back for a second film. That one came out 1986, which is an entirely different film. That one was about her growing up, and one of her daughters found out her parents were getting divorced, and so she wanted to Parent Trap her mother, just as her mother Parent Trap her mother. But the thing is, though, is if you were to try to do Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap 2, it would probably flop the way this film flopped. Like, there are certain periods of time where other studios and companies have tried to do the very thing that film is doing right now, and it didn't work. And it's not the problem of wokeness. It's because these studio execs just don't get film. They get numbers, and they get these really high positions, so they get to dictate what happens under the umbrella of these bigger companies. It's not wokeness. It's because they don't actually, one, get what wokeness is. It's just simply put, good equality. The problem with film is not wokeness. It's these executives thinking they understand what women want to see, or what people of color want to see, or people of different religions want to see. Conversations get introduced to the viewer as being considered what some might call as being woke. Really what they're saying is why are you talking to me this way? Like, if I'm to interact with somebody of a different ethnicity, different religion, I'm not going to generally talk to them that way. It's just not natural. We don't conversate with people like that. And that's the problem, is a lot of these films and television, they introduce concepts to viewers about, you know, maybe different perspectives in a way that almost feels more insulting because it's not digestible in a normal human way. Instead, I feel like I'm being fed lines, you know, and that's not normal converse. So all this to say, I just think that when it comes to this entire conversation of Amazon and Netflix and just the general problem of the way that certain things are introduced into television, it's just because these executives physically cannot understand anymore because they're not creatives. They're not writers. Like, they're business people. They're people who are in it to make a decent buck at the end of the day. You know, Feder will make more money than I will ever make in my lifetime just from 1 year at Amazon because it's about money. It's not about caring about different people and perspectives and ethnicities, and it's the same thing about their fans. They don't care about me, Sarah, who lives in Canada, who watches Stargate, who also likes Hey Arnold and also Zelda and paints sometimes, and I wear fake glasses on screen. They don't care about these things. They just care about the numbers. I am just a number to them. You who is watching this is also just a number to this. So here is what I'll say to end this video so it doesn't feel all doom and gloom. I think they didn't expect this. I don't think they expected planes to fly over their studio. I don't think they expected Times Square bulletin board. I don't think they expected, you know, the weekly tweet storms. And I think that's why they're not saying anything, is because they're just like waiting for the day for us to stop doing this. For me, even, or stop posting videos to my YouTube channel about this. And the truth of the matter is, the fans are way too mad to stop. I'm way too mad to stop. Even if I think it's a lost frickin' cause, I'm too mad. So I don't know how this is going to turn out, actually. And I would like them to just reinstate this show. You can do it. You've got all the money in the world. Stop whining. You've got so much money. You could do it. Anyways, now that I've rambled for over an hour and probably cut this down to like God knows how many minutes, thank you so much for watching. If you're new to my channel, my name is Sarah. I am the host of Sarah's Spare Corner. Sarah's Spare Corner encompasses gaming as well as arts, crafts, and various different forms of creativity. Additionally, I like sharing theories, concepts, and ideas ideas, as I am a philosophy major, and when I'm not part of my travel places, and I'm gonna post about it. Leave a comment down below with what you've thought about everything I've said today. If you are kind of on the perspective where you tend to complain about wokeness, let's just talk about that in the comments. I'm actually curious to hear from your perspective. If you are the kind of person that complains about wokeness, what is it that you tend to get more irritated with? Because, I mean, if it's racism, I don't want to hear it. Because I think the thing is most times when people say things, I don't actually think they're really saying what they mean. I think they're trying to find a way to say what they mean. And wokeness is one way to like encompass 1,000 different ideas. So let's actually get to your points. I want you to first say hashtag save Stargate, because that's very important to put in the comments, but also explain what is it that you mean about that, because I honestly don't believe that there are many people who actually believe the issue is that we're being less bigot as a society. I don't think that's the problem. I think what people are actually saying is that they miss quality television. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye now.